Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program from our studios in Jerusalem. From myself, Martin Blackham, and from my wife, Nathalie Blackham, we welcome you to the Holy Land to hear the latest news, what's happening behind the scenes, and the reality of what's happening in Israel, and not what necessarily the mainstream media's censored version, which very often bears little reality to what's happening here. So we welcome you wherever you're watching. Please let us know where you're watching. It'd be great to hear from you wherever across the world. Please contact us. You can get in touch with us through the website. As you know, it's info@israelfirst.org, or there's a contact page and you can get in touch. Well, this week, this episode, we would like to do something a little bit different, and it's to start with the Book of Enoch. We've been talking about the Book of Enoch and its importance with what's happening in the news, with what's happening in Israel, with the scenario that we're seeing unravel before our eyes, with the global deception, the one world government through the World Economic Forum and other institutes, other things that are going on. And we've been talking about the Book of Enoch is a very important place to go because it is referred to by Yeshua as being very important in the end times, as in the days of Noah. And the Book of Enoch talks about the days of Noah. Now, this is the beginning.
And it's important to know also that Jude speaks about it in the book of Jude, and it's also in the Bible of the Ethiopians. So it's a book that the first Christians knew, the first believers knew about this book, and they knew that it was important to have a knowledge of it.
Yeah, and indeed the church fathers knew about it. Well, this is just the beginning. This is a little taster for you from the Book of Enoch. And by the way, there are different versions of it. So this is from one particular version. It says, the words of the blessing of Enoch, wherein he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the days of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed, taken away. They're to be removed, and the elect and righteous are to stay behind. And he took up his parable and said, Enoch, a righteous man, whose eyes were opened by God. And a lot of us have had our eyes opened with the COVID narrative, with all of the one world government, the surveillance, etc., etc. Our eyes have been opened from the COVID period as to what's really going on. His eyes were opened by God. He saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angels showed me. And from them I heard everything. And from then I understood as I saw. This is another important thing that we see and understand. Because you can see things and not understand what's going on.
And this is the name in Hebrew is Bina, which means also discernment. It means that you can make the points with another point and make the correlation and see really the reality of what's happening. Very important.
Right. Now, so we are in a situation where we're seeing world events happening. By the way, it's very interesting if you looked at the different things in different countries, how countries are all following each other and doing the same things. So this is the one world government. And from then I understood, as I saw, but not for this generation, not for his generation, not for the generation of the flood, not for the generation that would be alive at the time of Noah, but for a remote one, which is to come. Remote being a long time coming for him, but for us, we are in that generation that's seeing all these different things. Now, one of the things, the first thing I want to say is that the news in Israel, the news in the mainstream media is not giving you the right picture. So you can use the mainstream media as a referral point, that's it. You can't use it as the main source because it's no longer giving us what's happening. Now, one of the things that we find that there are different smoke screens being promoted by the mainstream media. One of them is the justice system in Israel. There's a battle, we spoke about that in the last program, between the government and the justice system, allegedly. The government wants to change the justice system, allegedly, and are trying to do that. But and there's protests and demonstrations every weekend now about that. But is it really as serious as everyone's saying, or is it a smokescreen? Well, one of the interesting things is, and I've said this before, is that the justice system isn't working. The justice system has stopped working. It's justice for the elite, justice for those privileged, justice for those who can afford justice, and the average person in the street finds it very difficult to get justice.
Which is very, very interesting what you are saying, because we are reading the parasha, the portion in the Bible which is called Mishpatim in Exodus. And Mishpatim means the judgment. And you're very right. When Moses was organizing all the judiciary, it's like it was for everybody. So the poor, the not so poor, the rich, the not so rich, all of them could be heard. And it wasn't about money, it was about justice, tzedek, righteousness. And now when you see, and we're speaking together during the week, it's like usually the people who are doing trials now is to make as much as money as possible. It's not really about righteousness. So it's interesting what you are saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's no harm in a lawyer making money. We're not saying that they should work for free, sure, or that they should stop having an income. What we're saying is that the outcome of the trial should not be dependent on the financial status of a person. It should be dependent on justice.
And everybody should have the right to...
So just to bring this out, the story I want to immediately go into is, which affects us, and I'll explain why in a minute. Heartless Israeli court orders the brothers of fallen Israeli border policeman, Staff Sergeant Solomon Gavira, to leave Israel. Staff Sergeant Gavira was murdered by a Palestinian terrorist whilst protecting the citizens of the Israeli town of Haradar near Jerusalem. The brothers had come to Israel from Ethiopia to help financially support their father. In a disgraceful decision, an Israeli court ordered two brothers of the fallen police soldier who died in a terrorist attack in 2017 to leave the country within weeks on the account that they allegedly don't qualify for Israeli citizenship. In September 2017, an armed terrorist attempted to infiltrate the Israeli town of Haradar. Once inside, the terrorist opened fire on Staff Sergeant Gavira, who was stationed at the security entrance and attempted to engage the terrorist and was shot dead. Staff Sergeant Gavira was present at another terrorist attack, this is prior to that one, where he was stabbed by a Palestinian terrorist but fought back. After recovering, he insisted on returning to active duty. A year after his death, Sergeant Gavira was awarded a posthumous citation for his bravery when confronting the terrorist, which was accepted by his father and his brothers. These are the very ones that are being chucked out. Johannes and Deslegen Meheret Molt arrived in Israel shortly after their stepbrother was murdered in order to support their father, Mihit, and his second wife, Yeshim Evet, who was qualified to stay in Israel as part of the law of return. Both of the brothers have learned Hebrew and are currently employed in Israel. One brother lives with his father in Be'er Yaakov, while the second one lives in Rosh Hayim with his Israeli wife, Aska Mangitsu. The couple's daughter was born just in January. The brothers tried to complete their conversion to Judaism, but due to their legal status, or the fact that it was in process, Conversion Authority Committee unfortunately declined the request, which wasn't good. The brothers then turned to their attorney, Nicole Mayor, head of the Legal Aid Center for Immigrants in the Israeli Movement for Reform and Progressive Judaism, who appealed for the pair to be granted citizenship. They appealed for justice, that they had come to support their father, that their brother had been murdered by a Palestinian terrorist, died for fighting for Israel, and they had come to support their family. The request was submitted to the Humanitarian Committee, but no response was provided. The Mayor appealed to the case to court. A few days later, they received a response saying they were also required to leave Israel within a month. When we received the response from the attorney saying we needed to return to Ethiopia, we were stunned. It was as if the world ended, Johanna said. We didn't expect this, and we were looking forward to begin our conversion process. We're saddened because it means leaving our father behind. It means splitting up a family. We were shocked, said Mayor. It's a shame that the authorities are ignoring the decision of a former interior minister. After the Population and Immigration Authority blocked the conversion, it is now demanding the brothers to leave the country after 5 years of residency in Israel instead of regulating their status. The decision comes whilst one of the brothers is already a father to a baby who's an Israeli citizen. So the baby's Israeli, the mother's Israeli. While the other is an orphan with his only family living in Israel. So, my point is this, we're having these protests about the justice system, but frankly, folks, the justice system isn't working. The justice system is not providing justice. And this is the reason I chose that case isn't because it's a one-off. It's one of a number of cases. If we were able to go through all the different law cases that are going on in Israel, we would be able to bring up a number of decisions. And in fact, there is one decision which I think I referred to it about a Jewish man who was made to wear a mask when it was a problem for him, and the judge ruled against it, despite the fact that you cannot have to wear a mask if you have a medical problem and you have a certificate and take that to the place where you want to not wear the mask. You should be able to enter that place without one with your certificate, but that's the law. But the judge didn't follow the law. And as I say, we could go through a number of cases, but my point is that there isn't a justice system. So a lot of the protests, I'm sorry to say, why are they protesting about a justice system that's not working? Now, another big issue, and I mentioned that at the beginning of the program, is censorship. The media is not giving us the full story in Israel. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, if you looked at what we used to look at before COVID, the newspapers, the news sources, whether that be Arutz Sheva, Ynet, Jerusalem Post, the Times of Israel, Haaretz, or Israel Today, or any of the news outlets, I'm sorry to say, are not giving you the full story. Now, some of that's due to political pressure, and some of that is due to censorship. A lot of that is due to censorship. We have been, even the Israel First television program has been censored. We have been taken off YouTube because of speaking the truth, of speaking about what's going on in Israel, and because of that, we've been removed from YouTube. So if you're looking on YouTube, you'll find that we don't have consistent programs because we're not able to put them on YouTube. Rumble, we are able to use them on Rumble. So Rumble is a better channel if you want to watch all the programs. Now, censorship of the media in Israel. This is a story about...
And by the way, in the world.
Yes, and but one of the main stories is the censorship on the internet. Vicky Ausländer, she's an investigative reporter for Israel. She's won many awards as an investigative reporter. She's Israeli. For Israel's Center for Media and Democracy, asked the question, who keeps tabs on the censorship of the Israeli internet, or indeed the internet where you live? Here in Israel, the State Attorney's Cyber Unit asks internet companies to remove allegedly problematic content requests that are overwhelmingly granted. I should have mentioned as well, Nathalie, that one of the things with censorship is our Facebook page for Israel, the Israel First television program, was removed without our consent, we weren't able to appeal it or anything. Facebook did not respond to any emails to try and reinstate the Facebook. They just took it off. This is part of the censorship. And this is going on all over the world, but Israel first. If it's happening here, then it really is a serious problem throughout the world. Apparently there's no documentation. This is for this cyber unit who is doing the alleged protection of the internet. No one knows what's being censored and who calls the shots. 26 employees of the Israel cyber unit at the office of the state attorney have the power to censor the internet. By the way, you don't know why they're doing it or who's doing it. In 2019, the cyber unit received no fewer than 19,606 requests for content to be removed that they put to internet companies and providers operating in Israel, mainly Facebook. Well, that's a surprise with our Facebook disappearing. Twitter and Google. A staggering 90% of them were voluntarily granted. They didn't even question it. The cyber unit was established in 2015, not for censoring everything that's coming out, but it was to deal with crime and terrorism in cyberspace. Completely different. It's not there to censor just things they don't want other people to hear. It's there to deal with crime and terrorism. Now, the two main concerns about this cyber terrorism unit is the lack of transparency, and the second, a controversial authority that would rather meander through grey areas than follow the legal path. We find an open window in terms of lack of transparency and the potentially slippery slope for freedom of expression that could well follow. What content does the unit choose to remove? We don't even know. From the web, from Facebook and other internet companies such as Twitter. What kind of content? Security related, or perhaps political, or perhaps even personal censored? The cyber unit doesn't document a thing. That's a shock. There's no information what they take off the internet. Because keeping records, the unit says, gives rise to a host of legal and technological difficulties. Oh, well, if there's a legal, and what does that mean? It follows, therefore, that in the absence of documentation, there is no way of learning, we have no way of finding out or monitoring the unit's activities when it comes to content that is voluntarily removed by service providers and internet companies. Where does the unit draw red lines to say what's forbidden and what's not? And there's no way to judge or examine the decisions of whether they're justified or at least proportionate. Doesn't the public, she says, the journalist, have the right to know? Yes, of course they have the right to know. Or shouldn't external entities at least have the option of reviewing the unit's decision-making process when it comes to curbing freedom of expression? What we're talking about at the end of the day, folks, is that we're free to say what we want to say on the internet. We're not saying that we agree with putting things on which are defamatory, which are criminal, or which incite terrorism or incite violence. We're saying that people have a right to put their expressions, their political expressions, or their what they are thinking or feeling, they have the right to do that without having it taken down. The state intervention in public discourse on the internet is the intervention in the freedom of expression of the citizens of the state and their right to consume information. A lawyer who heads the Clinic on Human Rights in Cyberspace. It's a significant violation of basic rights. Of course it is, because the internet is the place where we can report. Because we've lost the mainstream media, the place where reporting can still survive is through the internet, through individuals who are on the location, who can see what's happening in front of them and report it. If we lose that, we've lost everything. The cyber unit is in the service of the State of Israel, doesn't carry out the enforcement by itself, but passes it on to the internet companies who have to enforce what they say. Dana Yafni from the Clinic on Human Rights in Cyberspace says, where there's no documentation, there's no way of knowing anything at all, she says. There's no way of knowing how many requests they've had to remove content, what the requests have been, from what organisations or state committees have asked for content to be removed. There's no transparency. It's impossible to blindly accept the state's claims that it's forcing the removal of the content when we don't know why, and that the tens of thousands of requests it submits non-stop to the internet companies are nothing more than good-natured and voluntary cooperation, and not exercising over and above the authority which they should have. So this is this is very important for you to know the exact place where we are. Now, Nathalie, I know that you often have things for us to bring them from the Hebrew.
Now we're going, when you say all these things, the thing for us to fight is to know who we are, which is so very important. And so people need to know how precious they are, how unique they are, and like life on earth is so precious. You know, we have, like we say, Chaim is life, and Im is plural because we have two lives. We have one here on earth, and then when we die, we start to have one in heaven, or if we make the choice to follow God, all right? So it's very important. Our time on earth is short, but it's very important. It's where we're learning things, it's where our character is built. And because in heaven everything is good, so we can't build our character, okay? Now, so I want to show you something. We spoke a few times about it, but today I really want to show to the people, you are precious. You are made in the image of God, which is like amazing. He's our creator. And this is in us, okay? So when you look at the name Adam, you see, I wrote it down. You have the name Adam, okay? Aleph, Dalet, Mem. It's part of the letters. This is the alphabet. This is all the alphabet of the Hebrew letters, which is very interesting. You see written here, Melech. He is the king. He is the king of all the letters. He is the king. The letters, the Hebrew letters, are a creation from God, and it was for creating the heaven and the earth. When he said at the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, he spoke, and he spoke in Hebrew. So very important. You know how I love Hebrew? Because it's a weapon in our hands too. Because it's showing us who God is and who we are. So let us look a bit closer to the name Adam, which is, I was saying, we are made in the image of God. Now, when you look, Aleph is 1, Dalet is 4, and Mem is 40. Okay? So let us put Aleph on the side, because Aleph is representing God. And we look at Dam, which is interesting because Dam also is blood. And if you count, 40 and 4 is 44. And so you know that when we are, we have 46 chromosomes, 23 for our father, 23 from our mother. So how do we know that we made in the image of God? You can see it there, okay? We say 44 plus 1. So it's 22. And 22 plus 22 is 44. And you add the Aleph that the man has, and you add the Aleph that the woman has. Because when we are created with the man and with the woman, okay? And again, it's a man and a woman. It's not half something or half some. It's like, and the sexual act is a holy thing, like so holy, because we can create. And God is our creator, and He gave us the power to create. This is just amazing when you look at all these things, okay? And also, you can see so many things with the Hebrew letters. When you look Adam, okay, Aleph is Abraham, the Dalet is David, and Mem is Moses. And you can see this was the people who also established things on the earth. Abraham was the first believer in God. David was the one who was the king who was bringing the kingdom of God on earth, okay, for a while. And Mem was Moses, who took the children of Israel out of Egypt to bring the redemption and to bring them into the land, because God said to them, it wasn't just to bring them to be liberated. They were liberated to go and worship God. This was the thing. This is who we are. We are made in the image of God to communicate with Him. And when we communicate with Him, we are able to worship Him. There is a communication that happened together. Now, I want to say something also very important that we need to know, and we need to have a lot of discernment, as Martin was saying at the beginning. Isaac has two sons, Jacob and Esau. Both of them knew the word. Both of them knew the God. They were learning the teaching of God. But Jacob was using it to be communicating with God and be close to Him. And Esau was using it for his own purpose. And now we can see all around the world, and I warn people all around the world who love Israel, who say where Israel is. No, you see, there is people who are using the teaching of God for their own purpose. And there is some who are giving genuinely the teaching of God for the people to be closer to God. And you need to be able to discern with the fruits of what the people are doing. This is very, very important where we are at now. And everybody has to make some choices. And this is where we are. Everybody right now is making choices. How do we want to walk? Do we want to use the Torah? Do we want to use the Word of God for our own purpose? Or do we use it for being closer to Him and communicate with Him and give His light to the world here?
And it's one of the important things to realize how precious you are to God in these days. As we said at the beginning of the program, that God looks at the righteous and as a protection, and the evil, the godless, will be removed in this day. That's what it says in the book of Enoch. Now, one of the things that we know that's going on is genetic modification. This is happening both in animals, in humans, and in food. Now, this is one of the signs, Nathalie, of the return of the Lord, because as Nathalie was saying, from the Hebrew, we are made in the image of God. And if you start altering the genetic code, then you're altering the image of God. Some say you're removing the image of God. That's possible as well. But the point is that this is exactly what was happening in the days of Noah. This is why God had to bring the animals to Noah. They had to be pure genetically, because He was going to start again without genetic modified animals from scratch that He made. And you know, it's interesting, in the book of Genesis, it says that God made the animals, God made the creatures.
And when you say that also, it's written, when God was bringing the animals to Noah, it's written, two by two. And this is like, there is little songs for the children and all of that. But in Hebrew is Ish and Isha, which means husband and wife, because they were male and female, and they were for each other. So again, there at this place, you can see that they were pure. And it's interesting because, you know, we can say a lot of things also about Noah. He said he was tam, and tam means like pure, like in one piece. So again, he was not genetically engineered, and all the animals was the same. They were like, God knew that he was keeping the pure ones and bring them to the ark, which was so important. And when you say that, it reminds me the passage in Isaiah 13 where is written, let me find it, because a friend of us was speaking to us about it, and she said, I think I find something, and yes, she has found something. It's written, I will punish the world from its evil and the wicked for their iniquity, which is what you were speaking about before. I will end the arrogance of the proud and humble the insolence of tyrants. So this is like Isaiah 13, okay, 11. And after, I will make human rarer than gold, scarer than Ophir's pure gold. And there is used the name Enosh and man, and after Adam. So Enosh is like the feeble one, is again is a lot of teaching, but like again you see Adam. And with what's happening right now, man is becoming rarer, which was what was happening in the days of Noah. Is a repeat and is what Yeshua said, as in the days of Noah. And now that we dig, you know, like you were speaking also about like how because of COVID and all of that, but God has opened our eyes, and I think we were all asleep. And this is the parable again of the virgins. They were all asleep. And suddenly some wake up, and God really used COVID for waking us up and start to look really in the Torah what he's saying. And it's the wicked who are going to perish, and the righteous will inherit the land. And he said there, human will be rarer than gold because again of all this genetic work, as you are saying.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's because of your support that we're able to come to you. Please consider supporting us. Financial support is very important to enable us to continue the Israel First television program. You can do that by going to the website, to the donate button, and every gift really does make a difference. Thank you for everybody who's supporting us already. We appreciate that. You are making a difference. This is going into people's homes across the world, and we're able to get truth about the end times, truth about what's happening in Israel, truth about what's really happening and what the mainstream media are not bringing to you. Now, a lot of information is available on the website. You can go to www.israelfirst.org and find a daily news story from Israel. How, as I mentioned, how to support us financially. You can also find out a lot of background information. You can see how to watch this program or other programs. And as I say, there's a lot there. So please visit the website. And if you'd like to contact us, you can do that through info@israelfirst.org. And remember, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.